Hello, my name is Cameron Collins. I'm a revenue operations strategist with RevPartners, and I am really excited to share a report that I've created today, which is the backbone for executive reporting. Today, we're going to be going over an executive review that I use for quarterly business reviews with executives at companies of all different sizes. Now, the purpose of a QBR is to take a business, pull all of the data together, and determine where you can create efficiencies in the business. For example, when we look at this report here, we might look at Q2 of last year and Q2 of this year and ask ourselves why the average deal size was cut in half. However, the reason that this is difficult to do as a report like this in HubSpot, where you have cross-object reporting, is because inherently in HubSpot, you're going to be tied to specific objects. Now, with the datasets tool within the CRM, there are certain things that you can calculate cross-object, but it is quite limiting in how it's displayed. And that's where using a third-party tool really comes in handy. When we want to display cross-object reports where we're going from sessions to leads to MQLs to deals to revenue, here we're looking at a variety of factors. How many people are viewing your website creates the sessions, how many contacts are created might create the leads, and then how many deals become a revenue opportunity. These cross-object reports are really hard to not only create, but also to display, even with the capabilities that you do have in your native CRM. And using a third-party BI tool is what makes it a report like this within a single report possible. Typically, when most accounts, especially if you don't have something like OpsHub Enterprise, are trying to do this, you're going to have to create 4, 5, or 6 reports in order to create the number of sessions, the number of leads, the number of MQLs, the amount of closed won deals, the amount of revenue that is being closed, let alone the count of deals. And all of these reports that have to be created individually do tell the same story. And yes, they can all go on one dashboard, but now you have 4, 5, 6 reports that have to be looked at by an executive team or by your RevOps person, as opposed to something like here where we have one report that aggregates the data. And that's really the power of a BI tool like this, where we are able to aggregate all of this cross-object reporting into one place. Now, we are using dummy data today, but what's really exciting about this report and being able to display it as you see here in Databox is the fact that we have a lot of metrics which cross different objects in HubSpot, but are displayed in one single view. So let's break this down. Now, when we do a quarterly business review at RevPartners, typically what I'm breaking down is the entire customer journey from sessions when people look at a website through to the revenue that's being closed won. And then we're breaking down where the greatest opportunities are for that organization to grow. And when we look at this report, we can see sessions, leads, MQLs, deals created, closed won, and then recurring service amount or recurring revenue that was closed won. In between these key metrics, we have calculated conversions. So we have the percentage of sessions that became leads, the percentage of leads to MQLs, percentage of MQLs to deals, and then we have the calculation to closed won and average deal size. And again, in HubSpot, this is really hard to do and display in one graph. So let's decipher how you can interpret this report and what makes it so powerful and impactful for executives when we do our QBRs. For example, we can look at all of the information here and see that if we look just at the total recurring service amount, you'll see that if we look at Q2 year over year, there was a massive drop in revenue. And any company that has a massive drop in year over year revenue is oftentimes going to ask themselves, well, why did this happen? And although there's a variety of factors that ultimately will play into the answer, a very glaring one that jumps out is average deal size was cut almost in half. And when you have average deal size that's cut in half, now you have to start asking yourself, why was that average deal size cut in half? In addition to looking at something like average deal size, which we can see was cut in half, we can look at quarter over quarter changes and see that the number of sessions was cut in half. or we can see that the percentage of leads to MQLs has changed drastically. So all of these areas of opportunities, which can be looked at any way you want, quarter over quarter, year over year, and however you want to break it down, very easily, very powerfully, we could start to ask ourselves, why? Why are these things happening? Why is this data changing? Now, something that's really important to note is that Databox does let you pull in information from a variety of sources. So, for example, here we have the number of sessions, but maybe we want to know the number of leads based on where they're coming from and break it down by, is it contacts and leads that are coming from our website? Are they coming from webinars and other attribution? And this report gives you the high level questions and answers, but you definitely are going to want to have drill downs in order to get more and more granular. So previously we had all of the data displayed as a table. Now we have it displayed as a funnel. And this is really helpful to look at where our greatest leakage may be. So specifically, if we wanted to look at this year, which is the time frame that we have, and maybe we want to see where our greatest opportunities are, well, we can see that there's a huge gap and drop off between the deals created and closed won. And that is something that's to be expected. But again, the question we want to ask ourselves is why? So just like we previously had the table, which had all of the metrics, all of the conversion rates, and then we can drill in and look at a funnel like this and start to get even more deep answers. This is a process that you rinse and repeat. And that is how you're going to be able to grow and scale your business using quarterly business reviews every single quarter.